Happy Faith Friday! Who's excited for another episode of Faith Friday? Because I gotta tell you that in this community, if you don't know, we are all about learning how to turn our purpose, our God-given gifts, our talents, our abilities, our skills, nurturing those, mastering things, taking it to new levels, and turning that into a profitable business, running a business of purpose and doing something that we have been called to do according to God's will, and also learning how to step into leadership and knowing that in order to do anything well, it takes leadership. It takes learning how to lead, and there is no better way to learn how to lead than to learn by Jesus's walk through life, by reading God's word and getting steeped into, just meditating on everything that this book has to say, because this book is life. Now, and we're going to talk a little bit about spiritual maturity and what it means to spiritually grow up. Also, learning to manage your mind, learning to take control of your thoughts, because some of the things that we did as children, we've developed these thoughts, these habits, these beliefs based off of past experiences. Once we had an experience with something as a child, it grew into a belief, a pattern. Some of the things that we learned as a child, those habits that we developed, those thoughts that we developed, served us at that time because we didn't know any better how to respond or how to react. But as we grow up, they become patterns and we continue to respond and react the same way. This is where we get to spiritually mature, spiritually grow up, and start taking new thoughts captive, start managing our minds, start handling the way we operate, the way we think, the way we function in a mature way, because we are now adults. And I'm just going to give you some things that you want to start shifting into and things that you want to start shifting out of, and just giving you some personal insight from my experience of what you can do to start really focusing on what God says about you, about your life, about his plans for you versus what the world says, what your mind tells you, because all of that stuff will not turn you into the leader that you get to be, to go out there and go on your mission and spread your message and create the business and the life that you love. The first thing I want to talk to you about is understanding that you are a masterpiece. Okay? Truth be told, it says it in here, I actually wrote a song called Masterpiece, and it's really all about just understanding that you are God's creation. And anytime you're talking down about yourself, you're letting the negative voices get hold of your mind, and you start building belief around those things. We start telling ourselves the wrong thing. What's the first thing you do when you look in a mirror? Or what's the first thing you do when you see a picture of yourself? You immediately go to the flaws more than likely. Tell me if I'm wrong. But most people are like, oh, I don't like that picture. I don't like my hair in that, or I don't like my eyes in that, or I don't like my outfit, or I was standing the wrong way. We are so programmed to look at the flaws and the things that we don't like, and most of us probably don't even stand in front of a mirror and really observe, because if we did, it would just make us feel bad about ourselves, because we're looking at all the things that we don't like. And when we do that, you have to realize, we were created by God. God wasn't having a bad day when he made you, right? And he didn't forget to sprinkle some extra goodness and passion and desires in you. They're there. But the problem is we're too busy insulting the creation. Every time we talk down about ourselves, we say something negative about ourselves, we're building that belief in ourselves. That's keeping our confidence low. That's, having us doubt ourselves, and it's insulting. It's insulting to God. So I really want to help you develop the habit of saying the things that you do love and recognizing how awesome you are. And when you see other leaders and people that you want to compare yourself to because you don't think that you're as good as they are or you're as amazing as they are, find the ways that they inspire you, and and recognize that you are as 1000% capable as they are, because they were made in the same image. They were made the same way. They weren't made as a robot. They weren't made as anything else. So you are fully capable But you have to start telling yourself these things versus, focusing on those go-to thoughts and those go-to negative beliefs that will continue to keep you down, right? So the first thing is just recognizing you're a masterpiece and stop insulting our creator. Like every time we make an insult to ourselves or talk down about ourselves or allow negative thoughts from the enemy to come in, it's like, it's not productive. It's not a success habit. It's not going to push you to your next level. There's no good that comes out of steeping our mind in these things. The second thing is really to stop caring about the opinions of others. Like your mission can't be complete if you're constantly caring about what others are going to think, because everybody has an opinion, everybody has a thought. You really have to let go, and you can't focus on what the world wants you to do and what God wants you to do. You have to choose. So what's it going to be, right? If God's putting a dream in your heart, a desire in your heart, a plan for you, but you're so caught up in what others are going to think. And here's the truth. You may be fearful to fail, but more importantly, you're fearful of what other people will think if you fail, because you're okay failing silently more than you are failing in the forefront in public. So we all are. So recognize that you just have to stop caring about what others are thinking. As long as you're in tune and in line with this book, and the way to do that is to read it daily, right? We can't be in relationship with God if we're not in connection, right? And that's a big thing that we're covering in this group, is learning to connect. Get used to commenting for purpose and giving your value and giving your 2 cents and making it a 4-word minimum. You know what I'm saying? Connection is currency, and it's the way that we capture and build relationships. It's the way that we build business. It's the way that, we get to live a fruitful life. So we have to stop caring about the opinions of others, because we can't care what other people think and what God thinks at the same time. It's really ultimately his opinion, and if we're living in line with what God's saying, that's what really matters. And then the third thing is taking control of your thoughts, shifting your focus. I can't tell you how many times, when I work with clients, when I talk to people, it's they can't get out of their way of thinking. And until your thoughts change, until your beliefs change, nothing can change, because the thoughts are what lead our actions. It's almost like, it sounds kind of, I don't want this to sound bad, but this is really what it sounds like when we're in our head about oh, I'm afraid of what other people will think about me. It's Sally took my ball and I don't like her anymore. Or, it's just thinking of it as a childlike thought. Oh, I'm just, I'm afraid of disappointment. I'm afraid of this. It's they're all these little childlike thoughts that we have that we get to grow out of them now. It's time to rise above. It's time to step into leadership. It's time to shift the thought. It has to be getting exhausting or boring. One of the two, right? I don't want to sugarcoat, I want to empower you, but I want to call out the elephant in our mind, the elephant in the room, that these thoughts that we have, they're just not productive. Your mind is valuable real estate. Someone just said that. What was the quote? Your mind is it's millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate. What are you allowing to reside there? What are you allowing to live in your mind? Because what's going on there is a reflection. If you're looking at any area of your life going, this I don't like, what are your, trace it back to your thoughts. What are your beliefs around that specific thing? And what beliefs should you have versus what you actually have? Now, the way to change and start shifting belief, start listening start paying attention to who you're listening to. Are you continuing to listen to those beliefs, or are you starting to pay attention and memorize what's in this book? Because I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys have my Christian Entrepreneur Quiet Time Guide. I actually just revamped this. One of the things that's in this is literally verses to memorize. I give you a slew of verses that you can start memorizing. When you can start memorizing scripture, those are the thoughts that you want to have in your mind. When you're stressing about finances, what are some verses you can go to? When you're stressing in your relationships, what are some verses you can go to? When you're lacking in patience, what are some verses you can go to? Like you know, sitting in your mind about, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so impatient and this and that and this is driving me crazy and I can't deal with this and then like letting your mind run amok, like little tiny thoughts can start to form into really big crazy thoughts. You know, it could be like a little trigger that someone says to you about something really silly, but then all of a sudden you start drilling it and oh my gosh, like now that person thinks this, and what if that happens now they're gonna think that like, oh, I'm not really cut out for business, and like it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it all starts from this like really tiny thought. But if you learn to shift, like leadership is not something that only certain people are gifted with. It's something you develop, and your mind is something that is a sponge. It's still a sponge, and it's still something that can be formed and shaped and remolded, but you have to work at that. Like it takes effort, it takes self-awareness, it takes focus, and it takes like you putting in the work to do it. So what are you like telling yourself? Like what verses are you holding on to when those thoughts start to creep in, so you can start to reprogram your mind? Learning how to get out of your head and into the word, like creating a consistent schedule with having a quiet time. And you know, for me, I spend so much time in the morning. Like my husband's like, have you been doing Bible study this whole time? I'm like, yeah. Like I don't put a time limit on it, and not everybody has like an hour or two a day to do it, and I'm thankful that like I really do. I spend time in the morning. I'm really even starting to focus more on it at night, as I'm starting my day and ending my day, and the word is just so powerful. The more you can steep yourself in that, the faster that you can start to shift your thoughts. And when you start to shift your thoughts, your actions will change. You'll step into courage, and you will do things in faith, and you will walk boldly, and then you will build the confidence because the results will start to show up. You know, success really falls in the hands of people who are willing to spiritually grow up, to spiritually adjust. So I think it's important that we get out of mechanics and get intentional with getting into the word. Be intentional. Be intentional with how you're showing up. Like just know, like even if you don't get it and the Bible overwhelms you and you're like, I don't know where to start, you start by committing to sit down in the morning and open it. You start by sitting down and opening it. Where? Oh, I don't know. What verse, what book comes to mind? You know, like just start. Like just get started. The more you do it, like, you know, whatever book you start reading, like God has something to tell you. Like it doesn't really matter. Like he has something, there's lessons, there's principles, there's promises, and there's actions that you need to take, but you don't know what they are until you just open the book and start reading it. And so it doesn't really matter where we start. It's more important that we get started. And I'll do this throughout the day. If I'm having a moment of feeling impatient, if I'm having a moment of feeling annoyed, if I have a moment of feeling stressed out, I will literally just go to my phone. I will I'll type in the keyword in the YouVersion, stress or anxiety. And like, there's so many things that can pop up. Or yeah, I have devotional books that I can open up. I love The Power of a Praying Woman, The Power of a Praying Parent. So if my kids are driving me crazy, I can actually open up The Power of a Praying Parent and read like a short little chapter, and there's a prayer at the end of it. I guarantee I'll get something out of that. Like that will fuel me, that will recharge me, that will recenter my mind so that I'm not allowing the thoughts in my head to control like the reaction or the response to my children or to myself. If we're sitting and stewing and doing in our own thoughts and in our own mind, like how's that working out? Like it doesn't, you know, getting where we want to go is going to take that huge leap of, or even just like that small step of faith, you know, like adding faith into the mix makes it so much easier. So trying to do it on your own and figure it out on your own, like literally letting God into the conversation of your day. Stop talking to yourself and start talking to God. because he can give you the ideas. And the more and more I talk to him throughout my day in conversation about what I'm up to, what I'm doing, like bringing him into the mix of what's happening, the more ideas come, the more inspiration I get. And so I want to encourage you to, yes, in the morning, spend quiet time and like get into this, but don't just leave it there. Like bring him into your day. Like you can pause in your day and just stop and just be grateful for something. Say thank you to him. Recognize God for who he is, who you want him to be in the moment, your creator, your provider, your protector, your comforter, your shepherd. Like what do you need from him? Ask and ask expectantly so that he can be that for you. The other thing is nobody is perfect. And so what we get to do is stop putting people on a pedestal. Like God is on the pedestal, like there's only a seat for one. So I think that we devalue ourselves. We feel bad about ourselves when we're constantly putting other people on a pedestal where God belongs. Everybody was created in his image. Again, God wasn't having a bad day when he made you. He didn't forget to sprinkle extra awesome onto you and like put a little extra on someone else. We all have a unique design. We all have a actual contribution to make. We all have our own little dent to put in this universe. Like, where does your dent go? And so when we're too focused on other people's amazingness, it automatically starts to make us devalue ourselves. And it's not, again, not productive. It's not going to move you forward on the mission that you've been called to go on. And it just keeps us crippled. So instead of looking at like the person or putting these people on a pedestal, really thinking about, gosh, like, if they can do it, I can do it. One of the things I added to this guide is talking about the premises to the promises. Everybody loves to memorize the promise, but God says this and God says that. Yeah, but he also said you gotta do this to get that. You gotta think this, you gotta act this, you gotta be this way in order for you to actually receive the promise. So start learning what the premises are to the promises. There's every promise in the Bible, it's like, 3,000 of them. There's plenty of promises to go off of in the Bible. They deliver in time, in God's perfect timing, when we show up and do our part, which is always the premise. So whatever promise you're reading, read the piece before it, because it's saying if you do this, then this will happen. But God gives us choice. Are you doing this? Right? Don't be conformed to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay, I want a new mindset. I want a new mindset. I want a new mindset. Great. Are you still conforming to the patterns of the world though? Because the more you do that, you're not going to have this. You just get to focus on what you know how to do and what you want to get better at, and you get better at it. High performers just keep getting better, and they step into new territory and uncomfortable places that they're like, you might be really talented at something, but you might have to develop a whole new skill level to master it, or to maybe you need to develop a whole new skill level in something you never thought you'd have to develop a skill level in, because it pertains to the mission that you're on. It's time for us to just keep on rising, keep showing up here, and I'll keep helping you level it up. So love you, God bless, and I'll see ya a little later. Mwah.